Welcome to the Present Podcast. This is the very first episode of many more to come in the future, where I will meet and talk with the most courageous makers and creators from all over the world, with different background, different professions, to find out how they do it all, how they tackle their favorite unrealized projects, how they manage their day-to-day, which tools, which strategies they're using to get it all done while staying healthy and happy. For the following conversation, I sat down with my friend Jasmin Truong in my office in Berlin on a day in January. You might remember Jasmin from the Worker series in Present Issue Bonn. She's a real force of nature, super talented fashion designer running her own label Truongii. I respect Jasmin for her courage to do her own thing, her determination, her creativity, and for always being a great person to talk to. We chat about her upbringing, her family, her whole journey to get where she is today. We talk about her approach to fashion and creativity and making in general. A little disclaimer, we recorded already a year ago and it simply took me a long time to edit this whole thing because it was the very first time. I tried to figure it out all by myself with the camera equipment, the audio, editing and cutting the whole thing. As with everything I'm doing with Present, I want to inspire you that you can do it too. Nobody has it all figured out. I'm failing so much, but I believe really in small steps towards your big goals. We published Present Issue 3 in between, and there were many jobs that I had to finish first. I finally managed to do it in the last weeks, and this marks the starting point of many more podcasts in the coming month. So now, without further ado, thank you very much for your attention, and let's get started. Enjoy my conversation with Jasmin Truong. Hi, Jasmin.
Hi, Hugo.
Thank you so much for coming on the very first Present podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I have to say I'm very excited and also a bit nervous because it's the first time, and I mean you know it. And also one of the reasons that I kind of thought, okay, I want to invite Jasmin is that I thought you would be the perfect friend to talk to. Because it's always fun to talk to you, and also, I appreciate that we always talk about not only work or stuff like this, even though we're working in both independently in the creative field, but mostly about a lot of other things. Yeah. But of course, this being the first Present podcast, we will try to cover a lot of things that are a bit in the present universe. But that being said, definitely not limited by it, and we just see where this podcast takes us, and we just try it out. Mm-hmm. And prepared some questions, but first of all, I really would like to know how was your last weekend, because I know you told me it's the Lunar, the New Year's, and what did you do? How was it?
First of all, also really thank you for inviting me. Yeah. When you were sending me the audio messages to ask me, I was really happy, and also at the same time, I knew why you would ask, like why you were asking me. And I'm really happy to join you for your first podcast. And it's funny because I also don't know where this is going, of course, but I have a feeling that it could get a bit off topic, but still will be really good.
Yeah.
So I think we're on the same page there.
Awesome.
For my last weekend, yes, it was the Lunar New Year. And for me, it's kind of new to celebrate it myself as well. I got into it just a few years ago, and it's funny because again this year I realized that you can really make your own traditions, and it just became important to me to make it a topic, to tell people, no one has to do anything with me or about it, you don't even have to say something to me, but I want to be able to tell everyone that it's important to me. And so, for example, the weekend started with a birthday of a friend, and it wasn't like we talked about it briefly because there were a lot of people who knew that it was going to be the year of the rabbit, and we're talking about our signs. And I mean, zodiac signs became such a topic, like such a small talk topic anyways, right? So, and then on Saturday, which was like New Year's Eve, I just had a dinner with friends. And but they also knew that it was New Year's, and I was making dinner, but funnily I made something. There are a few dishes that are very typical, but this year I chose a Chinese dish, and I made dumplings, which I learned from a Chinese friend of mine, because in Vietnam we actually don't make dumplings. Yeah, but they're supposed to look like, golden nuggets and should lead to a very fortunate life and year. So I did that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's nice.
Sounds great. I think this is maybe a good direct pathway, because I was always fascinated when we talked about your upbringing. You grew up in Munich in the south of Germany, and growing up, you had a lot to do with cooking. I mean, I know that it's now a thing that you kind of, you say on your second Instagram page, where we get to, that it's a perfect distraction from fashion. And I know that you love to cook, and I'm a happy person because I got to enjoy it already, and it's just fantastic, and you can really see how much love and passion and joy you put into that. And I think it's also super important to have these sort of things on the side that really, in the end, I think it's really not that far away from being creative, doing fashion. I think it's also a lot, cooking is also like curating and putting a lot of ingredients together. And of course, it has all your experiences, or maybe the mood of the day, and everything comes together, like with everything that you create, I think. But yeah, back to your upbringing in Munich, because you grew up in the restaurant scene, you could say. Yes. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that and how it was for you a little younger.
Yes, so my parents are both Vietnamese, and my mom came here as a refugee, and I think it's really classic working class situation, trying to work and working her way up also, like literally working her way up the social ladder. And for me, like, we had restaurants, and I grew up in restaurants, but also it meant that I grew up with my elder siblings. I didn't see my parents a lot, and all the good things you can hear are true, but also all the bad things you hear are true, know. And now, like, with me being an adult, not living with them or being so dependent on them anymore, I see mostly the good things, and I can get back to their profession again. I really think that it's kind of natural, or it works like this for a lot of people, to really like become super distant from your parents or their profession, neglecting it and everything, but somehow, it will creep its way back into your life, and you will like start romanticizing it and finding it super interesting again.
Yeah, it's very funny how this goes.
And then you keep on hearing like stories like this, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'm not like, I'm not one in a million. Maybe it's just like how life goes. And,
Do you think that you being a fashion designer, like, how much do you think that this influence? I can see this when I'm looking back at my own upbringing, that my parents were they had their own businesses running, so they were very independent. And I think for me, it was always kind of the natural way of life, I guess, to see this. So I think that's the reason why I was also always, like, when I was working for like studios or like really full time, that I always kind of had the urge to get back to independence or like do my own thing. And I felt always it was important for me to kind of be my own boss or like having my own responsibility, even though I think it's super important to get all the experience that you can, especially of course like also as a graphic designer, just to have a chance to work for bigger clients in the beginning, just like as a pure educational reason. But I don't know, for me personally, it was always like coming back to this, and I've somehow at some point I figured out, okay, that's actually basically probably because I grew up like this. I saw, and I think I saw how my parents managed it, and I know how it was always this roller coaster. I think that we can both see being independent, creative workers, that it's, of course, it's not like the most stable life, but I think that's also why we maybe probably love it. It never gets boring. But I could really also see my parents like from, okay, great months, like new clients.
What's your dad's profession again?
My dad he recently retired or semi-retired, a woodwind instrument maker.
I know.
He's like basically, maker's a bit misleading because it's repairing a woodwind instrument, which means saxophone and clarinets and the Querflöte. I don't know, missing the flute, the side flute or something. Yeah. Missing the English word, but basically, and if you see this kind of flute, for example, it has mostly metal. Like it is fully metal, like saxophone, but it used to have a wood mouthpiece, and also the saxophone. They used to be wood, or they have the mouthpieces with wood. So that's like, these are called woodwind instruments. I hope I got this right. And he was, funnily enough, he had his atelier. It was in the next room of the big atelier of my mother. She was a furniture conservator, so they always had like big wooden, like they did a lot for churches. So they had like sometimes these huge church benches. Yeah. So it was quite a big room and a lot of wood and a lot of big machines and everything, or like that, a lot of like shrines. But then also they worked a lot for like galleries if they need anything with wood. Like they also kind of like old chairs, but it was not always like Middle Ages, like kind of all decades, all centuries. And they had this like joint operation. I think my father even had he rented it officially in my mother's atelier. Rented like a room that was his atelier, and so on. So it was actually really fun as kids because they were always there. Yeah. They had like nice employees. It was really like a family affair in a way, and like super personal. And they were always cooking every day. So after school we were always hanging out there. And so when we were bored, then we like played around with all the machines, all the stuff, like built stuff with wood, or my father's atelier with like all these weird little pieces, because the saxophone is like, I don't know, hundreds of little metal pieces, and it was always pretty fun. And why I was thinking of that when I also thought about it today is that, how was it for you? Were you then also a lot in the restaurants? You were working also at some point at one of the restaurants, right? And your brother is actually running a restaurant, right?
I have 3 siblings, and all of them have restaurants.
Damn.
No,
wow.
Really.
So they were actually the ones who were like hyper influenced, or like more because even they were just like, okay, we have to do restaurants, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're the only one who doesn't run a restaurant.
Who didn't cave yet.
Wow, maybe. But actually you're getting there.
And now I'm already like, it's again, you can like, it has so many aspects, and all of them are true. Right. That I have 3 siblings, 2 elder ones and a younger one, and after like they all did different things before, some shorter, some longer, but now they all have restaurants. Wow. And I'm really the only one who doesn't have one, who already really said no. So they asked me multiple times in the beginning it was a bit less direct, but it ended up in a very direct question. Do you want to take over?
Wow.
And I said no multiple times. The first time maybe was like, no, are you kidding me? And then it was like a no with explanation. There was a very emotional no too.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, I also tried to explain to my mother, but I didn't say everything. But it's not that easy for me to say no, because I do see their project, this restaurant was a game changer for them. Like it really led into success again, and also got them a social environment where they're very happy, they're very connected with the people there and everything, like with their employees, but also with the guests, with the surrounding. And for me, it's hard because I really learned that I don't want it. I really don't want this restaurant, but there is something very strong in me that would say yes just for them.
Right.
And this is it's super hard, because the way we here are living our lives is very like, do what you want, do what makes you happy, how do you feel about it,
Yeah.
But what if there's something in you that is also very big and really wants to make someone else happy? Like, this is what I thought.
Yeah.
But in the end, I said no, because I'm not sure if it really make them happy, or if it's just me who learned, who successfully learned from them or their, like how they function, that I should say yes,
Yeah.
And so for now I said no. But it's very hard to watch because I said no and they're having such a hard time stopping that thing. And I do feel a bit guilty because they would stop if I would come, right?
Right.
So you can't really say that it's not, it doesn't depend on me. And it's hard for me to do what I want if I know that two people could retire,
Right. Wow, that seems pretty... That's still actually really much more tough than I thought, yeah. But your brother is...
They all really have their own restaurant, businesses by themselves.
Yeah.
That are like that. They are all working well, and they are all such big projects on their own.
Separate from the restaurant of your parents, right? Yeah.
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 And it's not that if you have one, you can have two. It doesn't work. Like, of course you can, but this restaurant is made to be there are different kinds of restaurants, of course, but this restaurant, like my parents in particular, is really made to be family run. Right. You have to stand there, be there every day. People have to get to know you. They have to rely on it. Of course, you can change the direction, but I don't know if it's going to work. If, sometimes people are telling me, couldn't you run it from here? Like how we think businesses could work, or how we think our life could be, that we're running business, but without being there one day. But this one, I really don't think so. And that's why they asked me, I think,
Yeah.
Because,
Damn. Yeah.
Really damn.
Yeah. But you, it seems like it comes sometimes creeping up on you to like you have doubts of like, but I mean, this would mean that you can't do it like half-heartedly, it would be like a complete shift and you would,
But
it's nothing you can imagine. I mean, you have your own business and you do it such a, it's also successful and it's really what you want. But I just know, I'm just like hesitating because I know that you started somewhere a bit more seriously cooking, right? Like even saying like it's like your own catering and you can do like some jobs which you already did, like kind of professional where you got paid to cook.
Yeah. And that's the thing that nobody understands, like, why do I say no to this, but then open up my own little cooking path, like nobody, for example, what is hard to understand for them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Why don't I come there to cook?
Yeah.
And even for me, it was like, what, like, you know, why starting a small thing on my own if I could have a fully functioning, at least kitchen
Right.
there.
You would have all the tools, the perfect environment.
And I could like get whatever I want, like regarding tools and like
the infrastructure also.
the infrastructure,
Right?
everything would be already ready. But I'm not sure if I fully understood myself, but I just know that I can't go there.
Yeah.
It's and I wouldn't be able to cook there like the way I want.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say no, but at the moment I think that it would lead to something even more hard to say yes and give up everything and do it maybe for them, you know?
Yeah.
And but because you were saying it, Truongii is working and I'm so happy about it,
right.
you know? But the truth is the restaurant is working better.
Yes,
I mean, at the moment, yes, of course. But like sometimes, like after COVID, and I've been doing this now for Truongii for 4 years, you know, and like imagine you don't feel great, you know, and then the business is not working great, not for a week, but like for 6 weeks. And then they ask you this. It's so mean, you know? Like, I think that they caught me once in a moment where I was like really, you know, not standing on both of my feet, and they could feel it, that I was like, maybe there was some chance. And but I think now I'm back on track, and they can also feel that I'm back on track, so they really accepted the no now.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that they accepted, and I'm 100% sure again. But what I want to say is I wasn't for a while, and it was horrible, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't sure if it is really something, or the Truongii label or fashion in general, something that you could see yourself doing like forever, or like you were doubting where it leads to, or what was the doubt at this time?
The doubt was if I'm making the right decision in the long term, but also I was maybe even scared, you know, of my back then current situation, you know, like it wasn't going so well, but after 2 years or something, if it, like in the beginning, you're always like, whatever, you know, I'm just starting. But like after 2 years, just when I thought that I, you know, understood a bit how it's like how it's going and what I can rely on, everything changed. And I had a very hard time like keeping up mentally, and then also the job I created for myself was, I couldn't, like, it's not that it wasn't working, but I couldn't say that it was like fully blooming, you know? And I was doubting, I was just questioning a lot of things. That's the thing. I'm not sure if I was like, I was just I was questioning myself, and since I was not like sure about it, there was a chance for other people from the outside to make me insecure. And this is really the difference to now. Like I really believe that if now I would face another period of business going not so strong or whatever, I would be more able to get through it. And
so it was also like an important kind of stepping stone, I guess, to have this. Maybe also quite early. I mean, it's quite relative, but I'm imagining that you had this. You kind of got out of it. I mean, the world was also helping that it was like, everything was getting a bit more better. And no, I just find it beautiful that you think now that, this was something that you learned from it, and it makes you kind of also make you stronger for that you now just have like this kind of imaginative shield where you think, hey, I think next time maybe I can notice it earlier or work on it or something. No, but I'm really interested in this because, so you said 4 years, so it's Truongii now exists since 4 years.
I'm in my 5th year.
You're in your 5th year. Maybe we have to backpedal a little bit and talk a bit about how it came to maybe even a bit more, because I think it's interesting, like how did you come to Berlin and what made you I mean, we already got so deep in, but just maybe briefly what made you study fashion, and then how did Truongii came to life?
What made me start fashion? I think I don't think that I had a real idea about the fashion world. No. And I was always fascinated by fabrics and colors, and maybe not even in that fashion sense, but more like as an object. But later on, I got interested in sewing. But I think for me, sewing was more like another skill one could have, or like more the crafty thing, And of course, the two together maybe then lead to fashion design. Or sometimes when you're young, and I'm talking about the age where I was like 14, I got my first sewing machine.
Okay.
And it was a spontaneous purchase on the flea market. I really remember I asked my elder sister if she would buy it for me. And it was like $20 or something. But even in the moment I asked her, I remember very well that I wasn't sure if she would say yes or no, because I never talked about sewing before. Why a sewing machine?
You were attracted to it on the flea market?
No, really. I was attracted to it. I remember there were sewing machines, literally sewing machines and stuffed animals, And maybe I was even she would rather buy me a machine than stuffed animals. And I was already 14 or 15. I was like, okay, maybe a sewing machine would have higher chances to get purchased,
Okay. Yes.
And then I remember making my first skirt. I had no clue. And if nobody shows you, it's quite not possible to use a sewing machine with all the threads and everything.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to put them in, it will normally end up very chaotic, and
even dangerous.
Yeah.
There was that you bought at a flea market. There was no, or you just got going.
Yes.
With no
the woman
proper introduction.
Should work,
Yeah.
And I bought some fabric, and I really remember oh my God, fabric is expensive, And I made a skirt, and really it was a complete mess. It all the seams opened up immediately because I put the threads wrong.
Yeah.
And in the end, I didn't fit in the skirt that I made for myself, and I really wanted to wear to school the next day, of course. But it fit my dad, funnily. And I think I remember the situation so well because I have a photo of him in the skirt, and he was laughing so hard, I have to ask him if he remembers. I don't think so, or I have to look for the photo, because it's an analog photo, and that's why I really remember it so well. I was like happy about the sewing machine, disappointed by my non-existent skills, and all at once, you know.
Yeah. Okay, wow. Yeah. But this was, okay, so 14, 15.
And then, I went to school like a normal person, but I had a very hard time towards the end. And funnily, I stopped going to school by myself.
Interesting. Juicy. When was that?
Before graduating.
Yeah.
And I mean, now I'm laughing about it, but in the end, you know, I was a bit more confused than I thought. Yeah. And I knew that I really, really couldn't graduate like this. I didn't know what I had. And I just remember, it was the summer where I turned 18, and I signed myself out of school myself with a faked signature from my mom.
Okay.
Yeah. And the internet was still, oh my God, why am I saying this? The internet, you still had to pay the internet per minute. Hugo, maybe you're cutting this out.
Cyber cafe.
Literally.
Yeah.
I went, you know, to the publicly available internet in the library or something. And I applied as an au pair. And yes,
in Paris, was this
in Paris, like in the suburbs. But I went to language school, and it was kind of a plan for me to escape, but also to do something where my mother wouldn't completely freak out.
Right.
And I knew that I still had to stay in town to finish my driver's license.
Yeah.
And in the middle of those summer vacation, where like my birthday is in the end of August, so it was kind of handy, you know. I knew that I had to wait anyways, you know, and I could like finish my driver's license. But in the middle of the summer holidays, I went to my mom when everything was set. I went into the restaurant where I was working on the weekends and was like, hey, I have to tell you something. And I was really like, hey, I dropped school, but don't worry. I found a family in Paris where I'm going, like close to Paris, where I'm going to live for a year. But I'm also doing language classes there. And I already booked a flight, and I need 350 euros now. I think it was 200 euros for the flight and 150 euros fee for the au pair agency.
Okay.
And
but you made money then also as au pair, right?
Yes, like you get pocket money, but like I had no money for the flight,
right?
And like and the fee for the agency, you know, or maybe I had some money, but anyways, I was missing 350 euros. You know, I mean, I had a part-time job, but also the driving school. I just remember that I had I was missing 350 euro that had to be paid. I don't know. Tomorrow.
Hear this. Yeah.
And I remember that there was a big silence. And she said, I don't know where you got this from, and left. And I was like, is she going to slap me? Or like, you know, like, I was really like, okay. And
where you got this from, like this idea to just do, or this power to do this, basically.
Nothing. It was power. Like sounds very positive, but really she was like, where, like, you know, like she asked me something like, where does this come from? But like completely in my, like it was a question to me, like where do you have this from? Like this weird urge, you know? And then she left me there, and I finished my shift, you know. Like, I was a waitress in the restaurant, but like I was like working there for, I don't know, 6 hours, but all the time I was like, did you forget? Like, you never, like,
she just left the restaurant.
She didn't say anything.
Oh, man.
And in the evening, she would always pay me cash before I would go home again. And she gave me my money and 350 euro.
Okay.
But she didn't say much else to it. And it's so, like, until now, sometimes I'm like, I sometimes forget about it. And it's still like this sometimes. She doesn't comment much on certain situations where it's very strange for me, where I would say so many things, you know. And yeah. Anyway, she gave me the money.
Yeah.
And I just know now that it made a very big impression on me, you know. The fact that she didn't say much, and maybe I would have wished for a comment, but also she didn't yell, she didn't say no, you know.
Yeah.
And funnily, she accepted that much better than my no to the restaurant. Like, lately, like, I don't know why, you know. And I do translate it in a certain kind of trust now that she had in me. And so I went to Paris then. And like, I will try to speed it up a little bit. I went to Paris then, and I was so lucky to meet the best host family. And it's been really a while, and we're still in contact.
Wow.
And it's crazy. Like, really, I was so lucky to have them. The woman was a businesswoman, like, really such a powerful person. And I think that she really guided me later also, just by being there, you know.
Right.
There were 3 boys in the house, and I was taking care of the youngest one and the middle one. The eldest one was out of the house, and I was like living in his room.
Yeah.
So I was in Paris, not for the first time in my life, but for longer, you know.
So you were freshly 18, right? So
yes, I was 18, dropped out of school.
So exciting. Wow.
And I went to Paris. Like, I had language lessons, but I had French in school already. And this is the side that, like, secured people would ask, you know. I would be like, I'm improving my French. And but this year in Paris was so liberating for me. I think school and maybe the system and everything was having a harsher impact on me than I realized. We all know now that it doesn't work for everyone, but I was never very disobedient or never, you know, rebellious, like, from the outside. But something was making me very, very sad or something. And I'm not saying that it was just school, of course not, you know, like, families are complicated, as beautiful as they can be, but I was suffering a lot without realizing it. And so it was a good decision to stop school, and being in Paris, you know, just going to language school and taking care of this young boy, it really changed my life. And I think, like, it also helped me a lot to really also rely on my own, like, gut feeling, or my feelings, my needs, because it was maybe the first, maybe not the first time, but like the first big time where I made this huge decision for myself, really, really without knowing, because how would I, you know? The father in the family was an architect. So the mom was a businesswoman and the father was an architect, and I immediately connected to her and had like a very interesting relationship to him. But I think years later I told him that it was actually him who told me that he sees my creative side.
Oh wow, okay.
And maybe I should look around and take drawing lessons in the suburbs or in Paris. And I remember that since we had a special relationship, that my teenage me was still a bit like, you don't know me at all, but secretly I went into looking for drawing classes.
Amazing.
And it's of course a very classic thing to do, to take drawing classes when you think you're creative. And because in the drawing class I realized that I'm not that good at drawing actually, and really not in in France where you would draw very classical things, and I'm like, holy fuck, and I don't know how to make this look like marble or something. And then really this going to him, telling me in which museums to go, taking drawing classes. In the end, I spent so much time in the museums. First, out of some interest, but also out of practicability.
Practicability?
What?
Because it was practical, because you could do it there? Or?
Because I could, because museums were free until the age of 21. And sometimes I was just sitting there because...
Chilling, hanging.
No, really, because it was free and I didn't know what else to do in Paris. I had no money to do much else, And then when I came back to Munich, I was no more interested in... I knew that I wanted to graduate, but I was really I was fully hooked on the arts. And I graduated in, with an art degree or something. And there I heard about all the things you can study.
Right.
And it's still a very classic path to graduate and then look for a university. But for me, it was something I've never heard before. No one I knew was studying at University of the Arts or any, I looked it up and you had to apply and do all those things. And now it seems so normal to me, but no one in my family or in my surrounding knew what I was talking about or what I was doing there,
So this really means that the whole trip to Paris after you came back or having been in Paris was really the starting point of actually making you think that there is the possibility to do something creative as a job or to study this, or it really got you in touch with the arts or a creative path.
And first, meeting someone who's doing something like this professionally, before I think in a way, most of us were good, in those crafty subjects at school, or being good at this or that, and having another thing that is connected to it where you were good at. But really, maybe it was even late or whatever, but really in Paris, it was my first connection to art.
Yeah.
Even of course I've heard of things before, but in Paris I saw them.
Yeah, and also the lifestyle, right? When you say he was he was an architect, maybe that someone can have a beautiful home and making a living.
Yes, and I saw his drawings and everything. So I really saw how what was in his head was visualized and then even again produced. I saw how he was drawing. I saw his sketches, and then maybe weeks after, or by coincidence, I saw the technical drawing of his sketch. So I understood a lot already from there, you know. And maybe now even in fashion, I can have an idea, but I do also have to like make it bring it back to a technical thing, you know, like by making patterns or so like making something, like constructing something that is producible. And I really saw him sketch around at home. And then I saw the real like technical drawing, and then eventually, I'm not even sure if it happened, but then he showed me pictures of the buildings, you know,
the whole process. You got in touch with the whole process basically of doing something.
Or I got an idea of what a process could be, because before, you know, you're really like, how, or you don't even wonder how, because you just, you know, you just have no clue. And it's the same for a lot of things, you know. Of course, everyone wants to make music, but how really to drop an album, you know, all those things.
Right. And I think it's also a good point, maybe also with music, I think that there's a reason that people who become musicians, it's a lot also when they are really, or with a lot of jobs, if you see your upbringing, your parents, people around you doing this, you're naturally very drawn to following this path. Or I think it's if you have the chance to see something from the very, like, let's say, process side, or like every step in the way, that makes you automatically, I think, very drawn to it.
Yeah.
It's like if you see your father being a professional football player and you see all this how he's eating and how he's preparing, I think that's automatically making you fascinated by this kind of job, or you have to see the ingredients of what it means to do this profession, to be actually super drawn to it, because you saw not only the final result and only the glamorous side, but you saw really, you took care for their kids. You saw like how they ate breakfast, and then from those rough sketches to the technical drawings and then to the final result. I think also, this is what I find also fascinating by your profession, and I also can relate to it, that I always found that the job of a designer, be it fashion designer, graphic designer, or whatever, it's just a really beautiful mixture of like everything, but like this creative side and arts, and of course this is kind of like one part of the foundation, but at the same time it is, or it can be, it's a bit up to you, super technical or super crafty. And I think I was always very drawn to it. Again, I think a bit also, or maybe a lot, from my parents. The jobs they had were very crafty.
Yes.
But in the same time, it was already, they were in touch all the time with artists or craftsmen, or also business people. It was this mixture. They were in this scene. I mean, my father was also like playing in bands and so on, and like they were super interested in pop culture, and like my mother took me to a lot of museums and so on. I just want to say that I think what I'm doing nowadays is just a step further in a way, that I was lucky to be able to, have a bit more, let's say, to create some. They were like basically repairing and conserving objects and things and artworks, and they were not like per se like creating something new, even though I would say they were creative people. But I think I got the chance, because it's also a different generation, maybe, I don't know. Now I drifted off a bit, but no, I was just saying it's a very fascinating path that you described, that you got through this person from your au pair, who was an architect, that you got really, or that he made you see a lot of things in his day-to-day, in his process, and encouraged you to check out, to do drawing. He saw something in you. Okay, and then you came back to Munich. You now had an idea, or you dug in deeper in what is possible and what you can study, because it was not something that you thought was possible before. How was the next steps? Did you actively search then for fashion schools in Germany or somewhere else?
No, I did graduate then.
Yeah.
Like I went to school for another 2 years, and there were a lot of people who were like looking into, becoming graphic designers.
Yeah.
Or
Is it like a Berufsschule?
no, it's a Fachoberschule. Like I did my Fachabi.
Fachabi, exactly. Yeah.
Instead of a general one.
Yeah.
And there's this Gestaltungsfachabi, where you already have a lot of crafty subjects. Like, you have like glass workshops and wood workshops and everything. And I think it was really good for me to get to try all those things. And but again, I was like 19 then, and didn't graduate yet, and changed from a general Abitur to this specific one, which is considered less precious than the other one.
Which is so really crazy. Bullshit, but this is
I don't care anymore at all, but it haunted me for a while.
Yeah.
Like it really haunted me because, when you're doing or people gave me the impression that when you're good at school, why would you just do this? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I had so much fun in those 2 years. I met great people because they were like creatives, and I had my first really crazy, great, meaningful friendships there. And I also met a lot of people also where that I've never seen before, maybe,
right.
and it's also good.
Also different bubbles, or maybe from
of course,
different in the gymnasium, or less.
Really, it's just like that, you know.
Yeah.
And there we heard about all the universities where you can study fashion design, graphic design. We heard how hard it was to get into the good ones. We heard which were the good ones, all those things. And I just remember that I heard all these things, but I really had to make my, maybe asking friends, but make my own path through it again, because I remember that I could just report it to my mother, because it was really nothing she could help me with, she never studied here, or she never studied at a university at all, let alone in Germany, let alone in a non-classic, in the arts. So no one could help me. I had, of course I knew people who studied, but never had they never had to apply with a portfolio or things like this. Yeah.
But in this, so they really prepared you for this path to make an application and so on.
Yeah, or at least they tell you about it.
Yeah. And then of course, then you make your Fachabi, and then it was, I guess, time to do your Mappe.
Yes, to do my portfolio, and then apply. And I heard it at school, but also a girl from my class was going to Berlin, and I was really Berlin, why not?
Yeah.
And I think in Munich there were only private schools or something where you could do it. And I heard that in Berlin there are 2 great schools where you could study fashion design. And I did want to go to a school that was considered good, you know. And there were lots of schools closer than this, but also Berlin seemed great to me. I've never been, but it's a big city and all those things. But I can't, now, if I think about it, I was so naive and so,
So you were which age, like 19, 20 by then?
Yes, it was again the summer where I turned 20, I guess.
Yeah. What was this time? Was it 2000?
I graduated in
8?
Yes, in 2008.
2008, yeah.
Crazy.
Berlin in 2008.
Yeah. And I applied, and still during my final exams, and they didn't take me. You know,
which was that?
it was Weissensee.
Weissensee was it? Yeah.
And I was disappointed by myself. I knew that it was hard to get in, but still, you know, you're always like, you think that they won't take you and that they will take you at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just like that,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. And I remember that I was very disappointed, but I know now that I wasn't only disappointed, but I also was scared because it wasn't just that I felt rejected, but also I had to explain it at home. You know, that all like what I wanted to do, my plan, it didn't work. So, you know, it was, it felt like I was taking, away my own, validation. Like, you know, them not accepting me, makes my desire less strong. No, that's what I thought, you know. If they don't take me, what am I doing wanting this?
Right.
And so I was
that seems like a really, I mean, also because it's so, I mean, just seeing it from outside, or for you, or if you zoom out, I mean, you know how like arbitrary this can be, like this application to these schools, you know, it's like, it just was not the right time. It was not like, it's just like so out of your control in a way also.
Often, yes.
And
sometimes it's also practice. You have to also, there's a language for those things, you know, and if you really don't know what to put it, like, you know,
first time, just
naively with an open heart and open mind, maybe it just doesn't work, you know, because, you know.
What was next?
And so I graduated in peace. And but I realized that I really wanted to leave Munich again.
Okay.
You know, I grew up there, and I know it's a city. Sometimes my friends who grew up in like smaller places, they're like, what are you talking about? You know, it's Munich. And I'm like, yeah, but really, I swear it can become so tiny, you know. And I've been away for a year, even to Paris if you want. So, but like, you know, I went back for 2 years and I really could just finish school, but I was ready to leave again. I was really like, I can't stay in this town. So I signed up because I couldn't wait another year. You know, you can just apply once per year. And I signed up for a private fashion school.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to go.
Yeah.
And you had to pay it. And I asked my parents, and they said yes. And now I know also that I think I put even more pressure on me because they were paying it, you know, and I like all the things before for a few years now I did what I wanted, but then again to do what I want I still needed them. Yeah. So it didn't feel right, but also it wasn't like the right school for me. And there again, I didn't feel so good. So I wanted to apply to Weissensee anyways, right? But I had like a growing urge to do it again since I wasn't so happy at the other school, and I did it again, and this time it worked. Yeah, maybe I wanted it more, you know, you never know.
So it worked for the second time at Weissensee.
Yeah, 1 year after I applied again, and then it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I enrolled there. Yeah.
Okay, and then the whole Berlin journey started.
Yeah, and really like I went there 7 years, I think, for my bachelor and my master's, but I left for 2 years or 2 terms or 3 terms. So anyways, but I spent like, you know, a longer amount there with like dropping in and out. And again, this was also life-changing for me. Of course, like university time is always like this, but I met my closest friends for the next 10 years there. The experience was great. And I moved to Berlin like then a year and a half prior, right? But this was really my home.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what else happened, I had to move a few times, you know. I had my first relationship, but really school was my home.
Right.
I was happy there. I was like, I felt like there was a path that was shown to me. And I know that so many people who studied with me hated it. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was really my path. Like, I was guided by this, like my days, my year, you know what I mean? Like, this was my direction, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic feeling once you are finally in art school, design school, fashion design school, just like this, or I mean in university in general. I think it's also very encouraging or like empowering, because you go back. I mean, for most of the people, I don't know, I did with civil service at this time, or some people go traveling, you know, and or whatever, and then you go to university or like your next education. I think for a lot of people there, it's so powerful because you are kind of in the system like school again, but for the first time it's like really a choice. You have like it makes like sense. I think also I remember how much I had all of a sudden like a new love for learning. Yeah. Like in school it was like especially last years, so tense, and you felt so often like, wow, why do I have to push this material in me for this one test, and then I will forget it and I'm not interested. But how refreshing it was. I remember like being in design school and just like, wow, like every day was like, wow, I can learn stuff that I want to learn. Yeah. The people that are in your class, you are kind of working all towards one common goal.
And really so just like finally, not all the time, of course, you know, but realizing again that if it's the right topic, you are so committed and so interested. Yeah. You know, because like I know it was good for me and it's not good for everyone, but school certainly in the last years wasn't right for me anymore. And I felt nonstop judged by the system, if you want. Like, you know, I felt nonstop judged by not being interested enough in this or that. Yeah. Even though I knew or I felt that I am very interested. Yeah. But of course you don't have the words for that, you know. Of course, like if you're like, I don't know, 16, you can't say, hey, I'm not interested in geography, but how about, you know?
Pokemon.
No, really, but how about the latest album of, you know? Right. And at art school, funnily, I turned a little bit the other way around and got very interested in theory. I was feeling often insecure in the super creative classes, you know, even in the real fashion design classes. I felt lost sometimes because it was like unknown ground, you know. I didn't know what it is, what to do there. And so I am kind of stuck with what I know better than this, and this was theory for me, you know. But I also had a lot of fun because it was like theory, but with like this, of course, all the art subjects, I really grew into school, and I really grew up there. It's crazy.
It's beautiful. I mean, just to backpedal a little bit, like now I'm like, I was in school also really tough for me, so I was really, that was phases, right? But I'm just like, find it crazy how little I was interested in most of the like
chemistry,
and or like even like our history, you know. Now I'm like super interested in these things, just like from a very different perspective. I totally can relate to that. It's beautiful that this worked out, and you had really this, for the first time, like this real center, I guess. And also maybe for the first time, really this peers, no? Like really people that are really actually similar. You are in one place and you all have this this goal you learn together for something that you're really fascinated by, really passionate about. Of course, I imagine in fashion schools, a lot of super interesting, illustrious characters, just as a cliche fashion school in Berlin. Happen to know some of these people you're studying with. And it must be wild to, I mean, I was not studying in Berlin, I was in Switzerland, and I just, this time in Berlin, I was also the first time I was wild, visiting. It was also wild, definitely. But I remember in this time going to Berlin quite a lot with friends, and also, for example, Johannes was already here, I think, at this time, and just like that was such a, I was just so blown away. It was this time, like 2008, 2009, 2010 in Berlin, like going there a lot. The energy was real. Not that it's now like normal energy, but just like, I think it's also in this.
And it was
this time at this age, yes. Right? And was, beginning of 20s. That was just fantastic. So what? So you graduated from Weißensee?
Graduated with my master's in 2016. Then I went to Paris again in 2017 because I thought that I have to get work experience, and go away a bit again.
Funny that you went back to Paris. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, yes, but that's the thing, like during my studies, I went to Turkey for one term, which was also great. Yeah. But I went there not for fashion design, but for textile design.
Okay.
And I think I had a moment where I was like, maybe it's textile design for me.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I went back to do my bachelor's. And then between my bachelor and my master's, I went away again to Belgium. And then I came back for my master's. I graduated with the intention to make it my first collection. Okay. I remember telling everybody that I want to make my own label after this. But I said that that my graduation collection will be the start of my label, but then I'll go to Paris to get some work experience first, things that you think you have to do. And then I went to Paris for a year, and I really came back because I really, really wanted to make Truongii happen.
Nice.
Yeah, I wasn't so happy in Paris.
Yeah,
it's everything. Of course, maybe I didn't have the job I wanted, but also the workload is crazy, and classic things like you're working so much, but not for yourself.
Yes.
And also when you just graduated, it's not the most interesting job. And then I was really like, this is time and money consuming, And I came back and I was like earlier than I wanted in a way. But I was really like, hey, fuck it, I'm just going to try. Because here, like in Paris, I'm wasting my time and my money. Might as well do the same in Berlin.
Yes, but it's your own stress and your own baby. I think that makes always a huge difference. Yeah. I think it's also really important in these situations to really follow your heart. I mean, it sounds like so cliche, or follow your gut, but you clearly had the urge to do this, and I think it was worth it. But like you came. So you decided then, okay, I'll go back to Berlin, stop working for other labels and do my own thing. And So you had the idea for Truongii in your mind for a while, I guess, or it was like already fermenting a bit. The idea.
Fermenting is the perfect word. And with my graduation collection, I told people, right? But I do remember that it's again now it seems so simple, but for me the game changer was that I ordered a box with 500 labels.
Wow.
When I graduated or after or in the end or something. And they were not there while I was still working on the collection, but I think a bit after, I was like, I want to do my label. And I ordered a box with small like Truongii labels, but like 500 pieces, And when they arrived, I was a bit shocked myself.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, I will use them up,
Right.
But and then it was so, I think what really saved me was me being naive, me being just like whatever, because I remember that when I showed my graduation collection, what was not planned is that of course they wanted to support me, but honestly, they would never support me if they wouldn't if there wouldn't be something they also wanted. And what I want to say is my host mother, from Paris, and my sister, they were both like, hey, I want this coat.
Okay.
The coat for my graduation collection. And of course, they wanted to support me, but I really could feel that they loved this coat, And it was really one of the surprises that really motivated me so much, that it's possible to make something that people want immediately,
Super nice.
And but still I'm just still I am justifying it because I knew them, they were close to me, but now I know also that it doesn't change the fact that they wanted it. And funnily afterwards I sold 5 of those coats for the first time, and back then I was asking for 500 euro per coat, which was so much for me, and I sold 5 or something, so I made 2,500 euros. It was not spontaneous, it was a lot of work, but that I didn't expect. And really it was my first biggest
the first real money
order,
you made,
from my
this,
things,
things,
because after I made also little t-shirts with just a Truongii embroidery that I still sell out of maybe even just a sentimental feeling or something.
Sure.
And I sold them for, almost maybe €5 more than what I paid for them. And then I started to sew my labels in. But there I realized how many 500 labels, are. And I think I still for the fact that it was just t-shirts with Truongii embroidered on it. And I think I sold even maybe 30, also a lot, for the fact that I just did it, after graduating without any plan or anything. But 500 minus 30 is still a lot of labels, And there I realized well, we will see,
I love this motivation, out of necessity, and very conscious about using what you have.
No, really. If you have this small box and there are 500 labels, you take 30 out. I'm sorry, but nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Really,
Endless labels.
Yeah, and I think I realized then that, it could, it's maybe not just easy. But then, I went to Paris, and then I came back and really wanting to do this. And I took it very serious, because already again, like I felt like I didn't accomplish my plan to stay in Paris for a few years. So if I come back earlier, I'm at least have to really have a plan. And
you put always a lot of pressure on you.
Yes, on myself. On myself, yeah. And I was really like, okay, but then at least I have to take this very serious now. And I moved in my first own studio, but it felt, of course, it's like great, but also I had limited resources, and now I had to pay another rent next to my real rent, and I didn't earn money, like the 5 coats were sold. And I rented the studio to make a collection that was to be presented like just maybe 6 months later. So I knew that I was starting, and it's still like not still, because I have products that I sell, but it's like this in fashion, like you always pay first. And I started to work on my first collection. This was around February of that year. And then I presented my first collection in July 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it the one in Lux X?
Yes.
Okay.
The one in front of the red building. It was my first collection.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And fast forward to 2023.
Yes.
What is the how is the status of Truongii? How are you feeling about it today?
It feels like 4 years went by so fast, but also having Truongii is the most natural feeling for me. So it's fully mine. It doesn't feel new anymore at all. But sometimes I don't know, like, where the time went or how it like went by so fast. I already had a crisis, like it's crazy. Like I feel like I grew up again with it. And also in a professional way, of course. And now Truongii is happy again. I can proudly say this after having 2 really hard years, like where I had a hard time myself, and it reflected on Truongii. And as you said before, it happened very early already. And when you have a hard time so early, sometimes you wonder if it all means that you should just leave it,
Yeah, but also, it's really how you see it. But yes, I always think about this quote. I'm misquoting it, but just like it's a good idea in a way to make mistakes early in life, just like as early as possible, or even like forcing it. Like if you start something or new business, like really, you know you will make mistakes, and you know you have to also kind of make mistakes. Like just like really, I mean, not forcing to make mistakes, but be willing to really get yourself out there and risk things. I guess that's just the way to see this. And I think it's really helpful to because you learn very early, and or you have also then the chance to kind of put the rails to the Weichen stellen. You can like you can like really then readjust, and it is sometimes really
ground
what it needs. Exactly, and for like kind of a new foundation. Cool. Wow, yeah, we learned a lot. I loved this. I learned so much. I'm with the whole present thing. I love also these like kind of simple yet or like banal questions, or like simple yet existential questions about rituals and how we live, because I think this tells so much about a person. Like we don't have to like, you don't have to like look very far or very deep, because I think there's also a lot of deepness in how we live our day to day, and like the really, really small things. So I'm always fascinated by everyone, no matter which profession, how they live their lives. But just maybe starting with like what does an ideal day in your life look like if everything kind of goes your way, or the utopian normal weekday? How does it look like?
Like utopian, but still normal, right?
Yeah.
Like
utopian in a way that I think that perfection is very hard to read. So even if you have like a great day, of course, but
like a great day at work, you mean that already happened, let's say, right?
Yeah.
That happens every now and then.
Yeah.
No, I understand. Like a really great day at work for me starts with a good sleep. I think I think we all do function when we didn't sleep and all those things, but I really learned that it doesn't work for me. Like, I will function, but an ideal day for me at work is a day where I get to create something, like a day where my tasks are not just organizational and not just, keeping the business going.
Yeah.
The perfect day for me is when I think the perfect day for me is a slot of at least 3 hours where I know that I won't be interrupted by anything. And this can really be, of course, another meeting, even just a pickup from, I know it sounds so small, but a pickup that is scheduled for 11:20, it's hard for me to stay focused. I will prepare 15 minutes before, I will be distracted 15 minutes after, and then it's lunchtime. It's just like
100%.
this. And I know that I love slots that are at least 3 hours long, where I won't get hungry.
Yeah.
And I think it's an ideal day because I will have the time to play around and try out things, but still I would know what I'm doing. I won't even say that I have a result in the end of the day, because it's maybe not so important, but like a good day for me is when I know what I'm doing or something.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think this like time slots are like, this is a topic that a lot of people, of course, in our times, and like I feel like with when the time goes on, and it makes it even harder to really carve out these hours for yourself. Carl Newport, an American author, he wrote a book called Deep Work, and it's a lot about this, like really consciously blocking time and like really blocking the time. Like he tell people, hey, I can't be interrupted, or really, of course, blocking, like put your phone in another room and whatnot. But just, I think it's really important to also schedule really this. I learned this also, I don't know, for like, and also to find out when these hours would be ideal in the day. Like, for everyone's different. I don't know, for me, it's like really in the morning, and then I'm trying now to put meetings or calls and all that really to the afternoon, because I know then at this time, my mind is not freshest, and it's also really fun to do this then. But for many years, it was just like, oh, okay, this day, and it's like an open canvas for everyone. Like, and I think that can be very dangerous, because then in the end, there's just so many days where at the end of the day you find yourself and you wonder what actually did I accomplish, and then there's like a whole week of this. And I think this is really draining if you are in a creative job, because yes, you can go on for weeks like this, but ultimately I think it's really draining when you wake up and realize, like, what did I actually produce or create? And you just like were an autopilot or just like kept the business running, as you said. But I think that's why it's super important to be really in our line of in our professions to really be self-aware and reflect a lot about how we want our days to look like. Just because also when you are running your own business, it is your own responsibility, and you can you can design your day the way you want, but it's also very dangerous because you don't have someone who's telling you, hey, this is the time when you do the meetings, this is the time when you do your work. So I think it's a big challenge to do this.
And also, I think this really is what we are talking about when we say, in the first 2 years or 3 years, I learned a lot. Because maybe I didn't learn like the most things about designing, or you know what I mean? But like I learned how I work. I learned what I need, maybe at least in my professional time. I learned to say no. Just because I have nothing scheduled, it doesn't mean that this is free time, you know? Yeah. And for me, it was super hard to say no when someone, or to really be strict when someone is asking for a coffee date, you know?
Right.
And I had a lot of discussions with friends who were a bit who didn't understand why I wouldn't have time in the afternoon for a coffee, you know? And to learn this, to stand for it, you know, and to really also not cave I think it's one of the biggest tasks in the beginning, you know, and even, or finding your routines, or finding your times. And it's different for everyone, but it's so easy to think that being self-employed means that you can live freely. I think it just means that you're not that in the end maybe you have to at least do what everyone else is also doing, just that you can decide if you're when in somehow, but it's not as free maybe as people think.
Yeah. Is it important for you to have let's say morning rituals? Do you have really how disciplined are you with your scheduling, your timing? I mean, you have your atelier and you are there. Are you there 5 times a week, or is it really do you need this really strict, let's say, do you have a certain time when you start? Do you have a certain time when you say, okay, now I really will go home and I will cook, or is it more loose? How do you do it?
I was very, very strict, or also I think so motivated that I thought that it would be just good if I work all the time, you know? But
the classic, I think also it's just such a classic also in the beginning, that. I think this is, I mean,
I'm doing it for myself, so it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
You know, really, it's
very dangerous. I think it's a very common problem also.
It's such a common problem. It's super dangerous. And speaking of my crisis that I was talking, really this led to it ultimately, that I really thought to achieve what I want, I have to work non-stop. And also every time I had to work without even having lunch breaks, you know, I thought that I can have a longer break later. I always thought, you know, I really thought that I could make up working 4 or 5 days non-stop. And by non-stop, I really almost mean non-stop. I can make it up by resting Saturday. I really thought that.
Yeah.
And I had to learn the hard way that we all have resources that can be used up and then empty,
Yeah.
and that it's very much hard, like it's much more hard to fill something empty up again. No, really.
That's so true, yeah.
I was working so much, and then I couldn't work that much anymore. Really, I couldn't do it anymore. And as I said, Truongii and I are happy again, but like really, I had to learn the hard way. And now, for me, 1 week is like, I think my phases are like 2-3 weeks long. I never do, like, I always admire people who are like, I wake up at 7 every day and then I'll have whatever they have. It works for me as well, but only for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then it changes a bit.
It's interesting that you found out exactly like this time frame of like 2 to 3 weeks.
I couldn't say a week because it's mostly longer.
Yeah.
It could be 3 weeks, but I know that it's never a month.
It's interesting.
No, really. Like, for example, me going to bed at midnight.
Yeah.
But there will come a time where, like, I will go to bed later and sleep longer.
Right. I think we talked about this not long ago, that you have then these phases of, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks where you then really...
Where I wake up at 6, this was the phase we were talking about.
And then you really woke up like 6, but then you have time, so you just really wake up for a few weeks really differently.
And my alarm is at 7, huh? Like I wake up at 6 just because I'm I'm
it's
done
not
sleeping.
Even, it's just
no,
really
it's not
like a natural rhythm that kind of changes. So it's like then in this phase active.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about it, that like my alarm was set for later, but there are a few weeks where I just wake up earlier and I feel fine with it. It doesn't come from stress necessarily. And but then again, it changes, not from one day to another, but slowly, maybe also being like interrupted by the weekend, of course, like in the week, like if you go to bed at 3, you won't wake up at 6 and being fresh.
Yeah. But did you also have to learn to not be, because it seems you were pretty tough on yourself, or like really pushing, or like putting a lot of pressure? But I mean, I feel it's a lot like how we talk to ourselves, and also how to, speaking of these phases, to really also to accept different phases, to say, okay, this is now a different phase, and I know, like, just to have the confidence to know there will be also another phase again. Like if you have 1 week where you really don't manage to wake up as early as you want, to not like be so harsh on yourself as if you now will live like this forever, but to just say, hey, okay, this week is maybe like this, and I'm confident and I trust myself that I will have a lot of weeks probably in the future where I will have a very different energy, and really where it's much easier to wake up in the morning, and where I'm not like feeling so tired, but just like you never also know what it is. Like you can, I don't know, live your healthiest life you can, but sometimes it's also out of your control. Like I think sometimes, and this also, to just accept this, because I'm also always so like trying to kind of optimize in a way. Like I'm really learned a lot about this, that to also not like overdo it. I think everyone just has to really find a sweet spot, because there is no, everyone's just different, and then you just have to figure it out. But just like recently, I mean, it's just winter, and Berlin winter is just really pretty harsh. And sometimes you just have to accept that, hey, this is why I have to, now, for example, I'm sleeping like 8 to 9 hours. And I was like, for a while, I was like, why do you sleep so much? Why do you need so much sleep all of a sudden? Till I was realizing, hey, it's like winter, your body maybe needs it. And if you need 1 or 2 hours more, then in summer and spring, that's like completely long.
It's so normal.
But I don't know, it's so funny that you kind of know it, but then you always fall into this trap again, often of like questioning if something is wrong with you, or like, why is it not, like, it's so, it is crazy. I think this, but I always feel that this like, this longing for, having this ideal day or something is kind of positive, because it means that you because ultimately you just want to feel good.
Yeah.
And I think there's no shame in trying to optimize all that, but I think it can go so fast in a different direction. Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is, we all know sleeping longer and feeling great about it, and sleeping longer and feeling guilty about it,
Right.
Of course, on one hand, you have to learn to accept those things and not to be hard on yourself. I'm still learning, really, not to be too hard and too judgmental with myself.
Sure.
But the thing is, I'm much nicer now to myself, but still, I think that I'm saying weekends, but let's say the days where you sleep longer and you even enjoy it and don't question it at all, but the days where you question it, it's of course not because you slept an hour longer. It's like so many other things that frustrate you, that you can't you can't tackle things you don't get done, because in the end of the day, I think we are also good at our time management, we are good enough actually to get back this hour, maybe, even if you work very good in the morning, and usually you used to, I don't know, like now you sleep until 8 and feel a little bit guilty, but you know how it is. If you still start your day with the right mindset, for example, not feeling guilty about those 8 hours of sleep, you will manage the whole thing normally and as productive as by waking up at 7. Or
yes, that's a bit also the paradox, because I had this a lot because I was experimenting so much with sleep, and I'm still I'm 34. I'm just like, it's such a long time. I'm still figuring it out. I'm trying to still figure it out for myself. But I think one interesting paradox about this is also that sometimes, or a lot of times, it's just like, so your body needs a certain amount of sleep to be like really, fresh and having enough energy to tackle everything and not be like, just to feel in your prime, let's say, for lack of a better word. But sometimes we think, okay, I'm waking up at 6, so I'm having like a few more hours for the day. But if you didn't have a good sleep, it really doesn't. It really goes in the complete other direction, because most of the time would be better to sleep until 8 or let's say 9 even. But if you like super refreshed, you in the long term, or let's say at the end of the day, you realize that you got so much better work done.
Of course.
Like, even if you had less hours, because just in the awake hours, you were just so much more focused, or you had it makes so much sense. Sometimes I'm wondering why I'm like so, it's so straightforward, but it's still funny to me how we still often think like, I don't know, go to bed so often like, okay, tomorrow just do it, just wake up earlier. And I don't know, just like,
most of the days, when I go to bed, I will count the hours until when I have to sleep to get my 7 hours. I mean, it's not so complicated to count, but the fact that I can't just go to bed, and just like let myself sleep, I wish to let this go.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah. We're working on it. We're working on it.
But I understand, what you said before, that like when you started working, you thought, oh my God, I have the whole day. And then after 12 hours, more or less, your desk, you're like, what did I do? You know?
Yeah.
And if you are like well rested, you might as well do the same thing in 4 hours.
100%.
You know, like
Yes.
really.
Yes.
And maybe like, you know, maybe not, but you can't do it maybe in in 2 hours. You really need one slot of 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like this is also what I learned.
Yeah.
You know, like, why can't I do this task? I have every morning, let's say, I have between 9 and 10, but 9 and 10, 4 times a week won't help me. I need one slot of 4 hours for certain tasks, you know,
Depends
because as like before I said, it was my ideal idea because it's so luxurious, you know, not to only find an hour and a half for certain things, to still feel kind of like that you can get into this rabbit hole there, you know.
100%. I think even sometimes if you look back at days where you were like really in the evening, like, oh wow, this was a great day. It's usually for me if I'm really managed to make some progress on something that is really hard or that I was maybe procrastinating on before, and then in the end, like let's say like, you know, a successful day, it doesn't even really matter how many hours. I rarely look back and say like, wow, I managed to work so many hours. It's really like, maybe you had like 1 hour where you really were writing like a good email, you know, like you look back and said, this, you know, this half an hour of like uninterrupted sketching was really making then this whole day so worthwhile. And it's often not about the quantity of the hours, but really the quality, and the deepness, or like the concentration. Like then if you look back at this and you're like, wow, half an hour of like real deep concentration is sometimes really changing everything. And just wondering, I think I personally just have to take this a bit more maybe a bit more seriously for myself, just in a way that or put even more emphasis on rest as not like lost time or something. I think we know this by now, that is like really important, but just really taking your time and then give yourself really the chance to not do like all this busy work, but really a bit of deep work, like real deep work every day.
But I also think that this, let's say, this 1 hour of deep work, you know, like instead of 4 hours, but even though it just took you one concentrated hour and you will feel successful. It's such a strange word. You will feel, you know, good.
Yeah. You feel good about yourself or about the day.
But it doesn't mean that you can have another one in the same time slot. Do you know what I mean? Like in the end, it's even more energy consuming. Maybe you will just have 3 hours maybe to rest because you will need it, you know. It doesn't mean that you have 3 full hours to do something equal. I mean, organizational things and those things maybe always work, but I do think that it takes the same energy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think we can all, on one hand, we can all become better in maybe getting into the mindset to doing something more efficient and faster, you know, just because you have an hour or two. But I don't think that it means that you can be like, constantly on this high functioning mode all the time. I really don't think so.
I mean, especially if your job entails having also innovative ideas, so for lack of a better word, I think it's like to have also this downtime, or like also these hours. Maybe like I'm trying to even block these hours sometimes, like in my day, of like, this is where I'm just sitting. So sometimes in the afternoon, I'm just having, okay, at 5, from 5 to 5:30, in my schedule for the day, it's just like sit.
Yeah.
So it means I'm just like really sitting on the sofa with my eyes closed, or going for a walk, or just staring like at the ceiling. I think it's just like to really give your brain like some downtime, but a different kind of downtime, like kind of this downtime that you have under the shower, or like right before, when you're trying to fall asleep. That's like when your brain is like really getting
like white noise
active. Yeah, exactly.
Brain, yeah.
And I think it's really interesting what happens when you like consciously do this. And not even like meditation, because then you really also, you're
trying to achieve
something
again,
or like really trying to concentrate. But just really say, hey, now, hey brain, you can do whatever you want, but we just like not give, you don't give yourself any input, input, just like really be bored, basically. Yeah. So one thing I'm always also very interested in is, I think it's because we all as humans have this, but just like very basic, like when times are getting a bit crazy, when there are days where everything feels a bit overwhelming, basically just like when you're really stressed for whatever reason, is there, what is your go-to, or maybe what are the first things you do when you realize, fuck, I'm actually, I'm really overwhelmed? Like, how do you cure this in a way? Is there something that you do on these sort of days?
Overwhelmed as in too much work and too many projects and just like head full.
Right. I think, that's a good re-question, because so I think there's either like these days where kind of you have to focus in a way, like you have to get your shit together and just do it. I mean, that's usually when the stress, like this kind of maybe positive stress, because you get this adrenaline push and you just like push through. But I think more like maybe smaller tactics, when you have these moments in the day where you feel this rush. I mean, maybe it's only me, but I'm pretty sure I'm feeling like I'm talking to myself as well as my own therapist. No, but like I sometimes have these moments in a day where, let's say, it happens to me a lot when I planned the day a bit differently, and then life happens, and all of a sudden you find yourself with like so many things to deal with, and like, I guess what I'm doing is then, for example, doing some push-ups, getting some fresh air, and then really, I mean, this is kind of obvious, but then really also trying to make an evaluation of what is actually important here. Because a lot of times you then realize, hey, 60% of my to-do list, or 80% of my to-do list, it's totally fine if I take care of it tomorrow. But you get into this like rush of like, because you have this own pressure of like, I made this plan for myself for today and I have to do all this today, until you realize, hey, the world won't go down if you don't do this today. And just like really like refocusing and saying, okay, there's these two things that would be really important if I do them today, and then the rest can wait. And
I think I understood now which overwhelm you mean, because there are really different kinds of overwhelm, I think. And I really know which one you mean now, because it's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit when you plan the day and have tasks that really have to be done because you're meeting a deadline. Let it be because, I don't know, in the afternoon you're checking in with someone on that, or someone will come to my studio, however. And I realized that most of the time it's because, and not necessarily because I'm bad at time management or anything, it's just because it's like that I need much longer than I thought for something, because there are like unforeseen circumstances, and or even to make it better, you just need longer, you know. And I Actually, it's similar to you. I realized that I really love writing to-do lists.
Yeah.
Because writing it on a list really like empties my brain. But also I like to visualize it. And on my to-do lists, I write small things and like small things that are doable, like packing the packages, getting labels or whatever. Yeah. But there are also like tasks that are not doable for the day, but I still have to do. It's really like think about new pants or something, And obviously the thinking about the new pants would be the most important thing maybe, like
right.
work or like kind of. But I think breaking the tasks down into very small pieces and just trying to get them done, but also to focus again. It's also important for me to take myself out of the situation. But really, it's not about procrastination here, but like really removing myself from the situation. I have to stand up, even going to the kitchen or having this 5 minutes of doing things that are considered dumb, being on Instagram, playing a game.
Yeah.
But it's possible that afterwards you didn't you have no solution. It's even worse, something,
But it makes it maybe less intimidating or sometimes. Because sometimes I think a lot of times our brain tricks us in like making it much of a bigger deal than it is.
And it's really that what I mean by taking myself out of the situation. Maybe it's as simple as get my body, stopping the thought of the second, because while we're at work, I don't move much normally. For example, when I'm like doing creative work, I maybe move around my table, but I know that my biggest problem is that I get lost in my head. And of course, then there comes time in addition, but it's really just my brain not being there, my brain thinking about all the things I still have to do, my brain really trying to catch up with time, but really I spend so much time worrying about only having 42 minutes left,
Okay.
Really, I'm not always, but sometimes I really count how many minutes I have left.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it and being surprised by the end of the task.
Yeah.
Or by someone ringing the bell, It's just how I am, and I think I can learn to be better at it. But as I said, if I know that you're coming at 1, it's very, very hard for me to work until you interrupt me by ringing the doorbell.
Yeah.
I would interrupt myself before already.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it's probably, but are you then finding yourself like trying to force yourself in doing this, or would it be a better idea to just say, okay, now I know in half an hour there will be someone coming to pick something up, so I will now do like really low key tasks of like just.
This depends. If I'm super focused, I'm learning now to really let the person who's coming to pick something up interrupt me, no matter how, as long as what is prepared, but no matter what else I could do, and really learning to not, that it doesn't help anyone if I stop what I'm doing 10 minutes prior to, I don't know what, I don't even know what I'm doing. Yeah. Or if I'm, for example, unfocused, to stop and do whatever, and to stop 20 minutes before and do a lot of small tasks that are then at least done. Yeah. But I think this is a very good way to to deal with this overwhelm,
because productive way of dealing with
and
the
it doesn't
overwhelm
work,
of
course. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you said earlier to visualize it. I don't know if you can elaborate on this, or do you know what you said, like something that just then visualize it. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I thought that since I'm working for myself and mostly am by myself, I don't have to visualize everything because I know it. You know, I learned it a longer time ago that is not true. That in order also to remember everything, I have to visualize things, write them down, draw them, that in the computer or on paper.
With visualize you mean like put them out of transferring them out of your brain.
Out of my brain.
Okay, not trusting your brain with like keeping track of everything in your
And even
mind.
if I trust my brain with keeping up with the things, it's a task for my brain.
Exactly. The brain is really great that it will remember you about these things, but it takes a lot of energy for the brain to remember these things.
No, literally like this. My brain works. Yes, I can be at least this, you know, but it's energy consuming, you know, and visualizing by taking it out of my brain and really simple to-do lists, but also hanging paper on the wall with things I still have to do, things I've already done, small sketches. I'm not the best in documenting my process, you know. So there I'm really just talking about what I can do to not lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the most important thing to do, just like some people, you can also like brain dump. That's something in the morning, like really like getting everything out, like a bit you can do in connection with the morning pages. It's also this tactic, you know, I don't know if you heard about it, just like you have like, you know, let's say one DIN A4 page every morning and you just like let everything out, what your brain is like trying to tell you. And I think in general, for me, it worked well throughout the years to really write everything down. That's why I'm also like, I don't know, even at like a night out.
Yeah, or journaling
everything,
more.
Like everything. So for tasks, but even if someone is telling me in the bar, you know, about a movie, I write it down immediately.
Yeah, I saw you do.
Sometimes, if it's been a wild night, the next morning I have to sometimes try to decipher what I wrote down. But most of the time, you know what you were like, kind of you can figure it out. No, but still.
Do you only write in your phone and on your laptop?
I used to like have a small notebook with me to write everything down, like a little detective or something, which I really loved doing. But then I had like every morning I looked at my notes and put them then also digitally already. It's just, for me, first of all, I'm very afraid of losing things like this. Like if the house burns down or I'm losing the notebook. This is for me one reason.
I would be more
also my journal.
Someone finds it.
Someone finds it.
No,
actually, that's not my concern for some reason. I'm like, whatever.
Okay.
But also for practical reasons, because I'm really a lot of times like searching back in my notes. Like if I have to know, like, when did we actually watch this movie, or when was it when we got Corona? I don't know, like. Or like, when was it again? I could like literally tell you the last time I had a haircut or something, or like what I'm eating. I'm always writing down also.
Really, like haircut?
Yeah, every day I have like this file where I'm writing down basically like it's a log. Sometimes it gets very poetic or something.
Your log on Present.
Oh,
and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing this every week. This is basically how I'm doing this weekly log. Is I'm usually on Sundays. I'm opening all the last days from the week, going through them, and then taking things out for the log, because not everything would be interesting. But I'm doing this since a long time actually, and it kind of follows always the same system. Always write down when I woke up, It's the kind of first thing I'm doing in the morning. What day it is, how I wake up, like when I woke up, how I woke up in a way, how I'm feeling. Then it's always a bit of like gratitude journaling, like what I'm thankful for. And then I'm doing this thing I'm calling it future grateful, which I'm doing every day. So I'm writing literally like future grateful. And then today I wrote, I'm so thankful that the podcast it worked so well. So I'm already thankful for
Don't
something.
jinx it.
Yeah. I'm already like thankful for things that haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
And it's really scary in a positive way, if that makes sense, how often these things come true, because I believe that it's really kind of syncing your brain or kind of arranging your brain in a certain way, like maybe subconsciously, like this, or basically just to know for yourself what you would like that day to look like. And of course, it doesn't always go like this, but it's
being honest with your desires.
Yeah, it's really
or your wishes for the day.
Exactly. Yes. And also it becomes something very funny. But you don't have to be creative or anything. It also not like thinking long about it, but also like being this gratitude thing. Mm-hmm. Hey, sometimes it's really I'm really grateful for that my tools are really working well. Like I didn't have problems with my computer, or like this pen writes so well, or I'm thankful for the anticipation of this trip to Italy, just like it can be really like, banal things, or like thankful for coffee. I mean, God, this could be like a great cliche post or what. Yeah. No, but like it's really, I sometimes just look around, but it just makes something, and it became really important for me because it's, it can be very fast, but you kind of really, as you said, you're really honest with yourself. It's a really brain dump, and it really makes me feel like I let everything out. Like there's nothing unspoken, or nothing that is like kind of, tense in me, because this is what I'm doing also with the journaling, because I'm oftentimes all throughout the day I'm trying like, I'm stressed, and then I'm writing like, why am I stressed? And then I'm kind of jotting down like, okay, I think I'm actually stressed because of this invoice, or I'm actually stressed because of the unclarity because I don't know what to write for this email. But just like writing this down, so I'm having basically the whole day a conversation with myself in a way, or with my diary or my journal, and just writing things down for me. Again, this is why we came to it. Feel that my brain gets kind of like, you can relax a bit, because it's just like I empty it in a way. It has space to think about new things, because I can trust that it's somewhere safe, where I can look at another time,
But because you said like grateful thinking and all those like rather positive things, you also write down negative things.
100%.
Yeah.
It's really both. It's also really not about like forcing any kind of, it's not, I'm doing something with kind of like affirmations, but it's not really like forcing any positivity. It's really more about being honest to yourself, I think.
And that there is a reason to be, like there's at least one small reason to be grateful.
Exactly.
For
I think that is important, because we can forget this a lot. Also,
it's
a
stressful
day, and like everything is bad, but actually this is just in this moment your brain telling you is panicking, like, but actually no, everything is fine if you're being honest. But just like realizing this is really important for me, and it's not necessary. It's a bit like a really like a blank canvas. It's just really comforting for me to have some sort of blank canvas, or like this, I can trust everything that's my brain. I can just dump it there, and not necessarily super negative stuff, but it's a lot about like, hey, what are you actually worrying about? Like just it's really like having a kind of a side coach or someone, or like because then I'm seeing it, and most of the time I'm reading what I'm writing. Then I catch myself realizing in this moment that in my mind I was way too serious about the things.
Okay.
So it's kind of a neutralizer also, I feel. And yeah, in the end, it's really, to be just like aware of what's going on within you. I think I learned for myself that it's really, it comforts me or relaxes me or makes me ready to tackle other things, because I don't want to be, or like the situation where you trying to focus on something and then like it's like a crazy party in your brain. And so it's just like, okay, let it out, and then okay, I can focus. It helps me basically focus also a lot, or concentrate. Maybe all the things that we telling other people, like they have the potential to again ferment for a while in other people's minds, and
in both directions.
In both directions can be really harmful. We have to be careful about this, but also the other way around. And this is maybe also a good incentive, or sometimes to think about, maybe is there something that I can tell, or is there a person where I feel I haven't told them in a long time that they're a great friend, or that I'm thinking about them a lot. Because you know it from yourself, you're sometimes super surprised by things like this, by small things like this, and super nice.
It's a good task, I think, because not everyone can do it. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So many people are having a hard time complimenting, like for real, not in a small talk way, and saying nice things to others. And really saying all the things between small talk and I love you, because maybe some people can say that they love their partner, but try saying I love you to your friend, to your or try saying I'm proud of you to your like someone who's not who is not exactly the closest person to you.
Or like, I think it's also because there's this huge gap also in how you can give praise, like be it like or like liking a post of someone you admire versus sending them maybe a longer message, or just or not even a longer message, but just a message that's hey, super nice work. Like it makes such a big difference. And I think for me is always kind of a sign of, I don't know actually, but like for me I always think it takes some, first of all, courage often, or like also confidence, or being also confident in yourself to be able to give like, and I'm not talking about like a kind of a fan moment thing, but like an honest appreciation, on honest thank you, on honest praise, on honest, and this can be very short, but you realize, or you notice very quickly yourself if someone's sending a message and really means it. And it can be only one word.
Wants something about, like,
or wants something about it, or
yeah.
just like, and this goes a long way. And I think this is a really interesting topic, actually, like this giving praise. And I feel that sometimes this is also a classic thing that I realize that sometimes people think, this person gets probably a lot of praise. Like probably a lot of people saying that they're doing a great job. Yeah. But you realize, no, it's actually not so true. And you realize yourself, like, sometimes you get someone saying a really nice thing to you, maybe about your work or something in your personal world much more, and they're like, you probably hear this very often or something. And then you're like, actually not. It's really nice that you say this. And having this situation made me much more, like, I think, outgoing in this way of reaching out to people, because, and again, like, doesn't matter where they stand in their lives. It could be like someone just starting out, but could also be someone that is on paper very established or successful, but you never know. I think even on some point, people who are on paper very successful, they don't get maybe so much honest praise, because like everyone thinks they have everything and they don't need to hear it.
Or they don't need to be encouraged again.
They don't have to be encouraged.
Yeah.
And I think everyone needs encouragement, like
totally.
Everyone.
Regularly.
And recognition. And I think there can't be like too much of it in a way. I mean, of course, we're not talking about like the extreme version of like hype and groupie, but just like this honest.
No, but are also between friends, I think.
Yes,
you know, sometimes you think that it's clear that you like what the other person is doing or how the person is you know, as a person, because I mean, we're friends, you know, you should know that I like you.
Exactly.
But, you know, pointing out the things and since you are friends, I hope for everyone it's real, you know, and I think that you tend to forget to say those things, you know, apart from you say things like, like this was funny, or thank you, you know, I say thank you a lot, but maybe you can say what? Thank you for, like, what you are thankful
like
for.
being specific.
Like being a bit more specific, you know.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point that it's the same with like, I'm sometimes worse with replying to something if it's like a very, very close friend or family member. It's really a paradox because I think, and it's the same, it's kind of in the same realm in a weird way, but because the people are so close to you anyway, we tend to forget sometimes that we still need to say something or it's the same with or a little note or something like I don't know, or writing a letter. Like when my sisters had birthday, I was just like, I thought I write a letter, and I like didn't do this in years.
Yeah.
And like there is also something, of course, about this particular thing where it's just like you sort your thoughts differently when you really write them down, or when you consciously sit down to do something like this, because I think we are often like, as you said, or like in normal day-to-day situations when it's also like always kind of like quick, and maybe we think we said enough thank you, or like, you know, but like just, I don't know, taking the time and being really conscious about it, because it's also, the thing is that it's not necessarily an easy thing or necessarily like the most fun thing, if that makes sense. Like it takes effort, that's what I was trying to say, but the other person realize very quickly if it really took you an effort in a good way.
Yeah.
And
it will last long, like a little will go a long way.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean in the beginning, that we have to, I think, really not forget how even, seemingly small things, we don't know how much this will linger in the other person's mind and life. And
or maybe the person really needed it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That leads me to my next question, because it's one part of how I would answer it. But what is, it's like the classic question for me, but what does being present mean to you?
Being present. First of all, I'm thinking about the word more because of you, of course. It's funny, like not funny. I mean, I think a lot of people in our social group do. And
that's so good to hear.
No, really. Being present, like present, it became such a word that is connected to you. And speaking of praise, sometimes in my workday, when I lose focus, I also think about you.
That's the best compliment.
I really think, hey, Hugo would focus now.
I love it.
No, really.
Yeah. Okay. That's, I mean, yes, even if it's might not true, because
No,
but just that you have this like little motivation. This makes me very happy.
You mean that even if it's not true, that
like,
you would focus?
Yeah, no,
because I'm really thinking this.
Yes, please keep this. Think that I'm definitely doing probably my best in focusing. But that's super nice to hear, because I hope that is something that
that keeps me back on, and no, really, and but being present brings. Does it make sense? I think it means to let go for me.
Sure.
Because I'm, for the most, I think my thoughts interrupt me, of course, the most, things, feelings that lead to thoughts that are interrupting me. It sounds so disciplined to say that, because you have to allow, those feelings and thoughts and interruptions as well, of course. But I think really letting go of things, I can't change, of some thoughts to just be there. And it's really something I have to learn. There was a girl that had those sweaters. I think she made them, or I'm not sure if it came from somewhere or if she made them. And the left sleeve said past, and the torso said present, and the right sleeve said future. And your torso is really the ground you're standing on, and it's the present. And I'm saying this now as a smart girl, but I'm having such a hard time. I find myself lost in thoughts or worrying about future things a lot. So it's really it's something I have to work on. But also your project is really something that reminded me of it, or not even reminded me of it, but gave it words, maybe even,
Good.
Yeah.
I love it because it's so I love this question so much, because I think really, the struggle, I think, is that everyone has the same, I'm practicing, let's say, or thinking about this so much in a day, just because this letting go, when you said being present is maybe just letting go. It's I think it's such an interesting and good answer, because it's really, it comes back to what we talked about earlier about concentration and stuff like this. That's it's basically really acceptance, also accept the moment as it is, and or maybe to realize that's what I mean also when we talked about journaling, making yourself a bit getting rid of the ballast, to kind of also give your mind a bit of a break, because that's just our brain, and it's amazing that we think a lot about the future and a lot about the past. It's super important, but it is, I think, really it's good to be able to take a step back sometimes, or allow ourselves to watch what our mind is trying to tell us, and giving it the space to see what's actually going on in your mind, because to just make peace of it, to say, okay, now I'm thinking a lot about the future, and that's good, but now I want to let go a bit, because in the end, the future is just like a fantasy. It's it's really not real, these thoughts about the future. It's helpful to make plans and stuff like this, but back to this ideal day, I think it robs us a lot like this like constant mind chatter, or if you like really get like constantly lost in thoughts, it robs you a bit of the gift of the present moment.
Yes.
Like, because every moment is like equally valuable. You can do everything every moment, right? It's like every new second is like a chance for something new. It's like a new beginning. And I don't know, I think this project in particular, or the title of this project, is for me the main thing, or where this came from, is that I have a constant reminder. It's so actually what I need most, what I realize I need most, is to like be a bit more present, because it means a lot of things. It means also, you know, be more how to say, like, show up more for the right things, or like realize much more what you want to do in your life. And like for me, it's like really kind of from it's really like a tool. Like the name of this project is for me like a tool, because yes, it reminds me also the whole time, and I think it's valuable to be reminded of it, because ultimately I think it makes me personally feel really good when I'm having, as we said earlier, maybe just 1 minute where I'm just like completely into something, like, or like, you know, half an hour of deep work. It makes you feel really good, and I'm kind of always striving, I think, for this feeling of like, okay, you can call it flow or whatever, because it's like, your brain can just like do and be, and just like be really with one thing, you know, and it just sometimes feels really good to concentrate on something, and not you know, being so scattered all the time, or being so worried all the time. And I think that's why I'm striving probably a lot for these moments of clarity, of concentration, because I know that this is normal, like the whole day it will never stop, and it's cool, but just like having these little islands of being just very like conscious about what you're doing it just feels really good. It's a good answer to that.
And also I think that because we said the word work so much, you know, it's for us because we are self-employed and we chose those things where our work is so connected to our interests, you know. But what I want to say is that this being present, and we call it the ideal work day or those ideal hour, but I really think that in the end, of course, it's a state of mind, you know, and you can, until a certain point that you want to, you can learn to achieve it and to get there. And we can build our routines, you know, and do this, you know, for example, I think you have routines, I maybe don't, or they change for me, or I don't have a daily routine besides waking up, you know. But I think that it's about reflecting that this feeling exists and that it feels good or something, and then wanting to recreate it. And in the end, it's just about getting to know yourself.
Yes.
And as soon as you know that you like this or something, to learn how to maybe get there again, you know, in a good way. Because it wouldn't work to be present if we would like just force ourselves there all the time and punish ourselves if we are not present. You know, like it's so in the end, all the routines and rituals, sometimes they sound so like, you know, they
so
sound
rigid
so
and strict and robot-like.
Yes, robot-like.
I think
but it's really not this.
Yeah, I think having these routines for me, it gives me kind of a freedom, you know, it gives me some sort of structure that gives me then a freedom to really maybe think clearly or like dive really into something with like full concentration. And it's just like a structure. And
or a frame, you know.
A framework,
at least, like, even, it sounds strange, but to frame the things you need to feel the freedom in a way. Because I mean, I think like the opposite would be to feel lost or something.
Yeah.
So you need a frame, or let it be routines, or let it be, mindsets or whatever.
Yeah, I really believe that. But it often from the outside it looks just super robot-like, strict. But it's really just a way to, be actually.
Or get along also with yourself.
Yeah, get along with yourself. And also for me, it's really all these things, ultimately, it's really not like, okay, I can work a few hours more. It's really just like, for me, always, I want to have clarity. I think that's always the ultimate goal. Like I want to have clarity in, okay, I know, okay, life can be over. Like we don't know how long we live. So I want to have clarity. And clarity, I mean, I just want to be sure for myself, or at least have a direction. Like I want to be sure that I spend my life, or I spend the time I have every day in a way that is close to my values, maybe, or close to what I really want. And being present for me also means to realize what we talked about earlier. Hey, maybe I should call this person, or hey, maybe I should work less, or maybe I should really not take on this other project. This is actually ultimately, I think, also where I write down all this stuff. It's just to realize what is actually important, at least for myself. That I don't want to have regrets later. So I want to make sure that I walk through life, let's say, with the clearest head possible, or with the clearest mind possible. Even though that's a very lofty goal, but yeah, maybe that boils it down quite good to not have regrets, to make sure that I live my life in a way that makes me and hopefully everyone around me happy, for lack of a better word. But that's ultimately what it all about. Comfortable, or also that I know I put my energy into the right things, or into the things that are actually important to me, because I think it gets often very cloudy. And I think this is something that, for me personally at least, the kind of nightmarish, to just like this idea of like working super hard, but like on something that you actually don't want to work on. Like this. You can work super hard, but if it's like completely the wrong direction, or like completely not what you actually want, maybe you work hard for something that only to impress someone that you don't even really like so much, but you want to have a certain status or whatever it is. But I think that's really like kind of for me the nightmare, like to put so much life energy that maybe you don't get back, into the wrong things. All right. So I was wondering, do you have like a long-term vision for work, for your personal life, or maybe how specific are you in your goals? Is it kind of loose, or do you have some sort of like, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year plus plans? Also maybe more personal, I think I thought about this when I was thinking about we can say like newer project that comes from your love of cooking, Banbeo, which is your, you can explain it to us a bit more, but it's your, let's say, for lack of better word, like a cooking project or side passion project. What do you think?
My long-term vision, I do think in like 5-year steps, I think, like roughly. And my goals, I also learned to put them more precisely, but this is rather for the next few years, and then you can just envision things for in 5 years. What I can say is that I can imagine changing my profession again and then again.
Love it. Yeah.
It's strange because at the moment I can really feel that I'm not done yet with fashion Truongii.
Yeah.
And I more feel like I just came back to life again.
Okay.
But I think my long-term vision is, or on one hand, it's a vision, but also what I learned from what I want for my professional life, and it's connected to my life, my other life,
Sure.
is that I'm interested in a very honest way in a lot of things. And I want to keep that, beforehand. Sometimes I wouldn't even sometimes ask myself if I'm interested in too many things, if I'm good at a lot of things, but not at one thing in particular, like really, this was bothering me a lot, and like it leads to be at school I wasn't good enough but interested, or wanted to go to art school but can't draw good in, all those weird things. But I know now that I have an honest interest in so many things, and since I know that I didn't make the decision for fashion for the rest of my life, I feel really good. I really want to allow myself and want to allow Truongii to go wherever it wants to go, or wherever I want to go. And really, Truongii can be a restaurant one day, but Truongii can also, I don't know, I could sign my paintings with Truongii as well one day, And with the cooking thing now in particular, it's really, it helps me to remind myself that I'm allowed to do it. It helps me, it's really food and cooking was a big interest, but it was a distraction, to make something quick where I know that I can do this and I have a result, and it's, if people eat it, they will like it, or if I eat it, I will. I love about food that it is so accessible, you know, and also maybe I like about it that it's not so judged as fashion is, and it's an output for me at the moment. But it's true that last year I decided to, one of my wishful thinking, but one of my goals for last year was to get my first job, my first catering job, to get paid for cooking. Yeah. And first of all, it really happened. Yeah. And also I had so much fun. This kind of stress, this kind of busyness, I really, I could feel that it was just in me, and I had so much fun, and it felt very different from the stress I had before.
Yeah.
And for now, I really think that a mix is great for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, go for it. I love that it can be, and I think it's probably very liberating to just also think it doesn't always have to be fashion, I know we're sometimes also, I think, very stuck in certain, or certain plans, playing too
and
much.
fields, or even tools, materials, you think, okay, but I've been a fashion designer the last 4 years, but what will people think if I'm cooking something now? Of course, now at the moment, it's so, it's easy to connect food and fashion, but even doing it without the purpose of showing people, but realizing that even the food you make has a connection to the fashion you made, because you are like, I came to a point where I'm just doing what I feel like doing, and finding out that really people from outside who don't know anything about it see a connection. It feels great that people can see my work, like in my fashion or even in my food, and really getting to a point where I am allowed to use whatever material or take on whatever profession, and people believing me because it really is me. I think this is really some, like, a very big goal. Like, even now when I'm saying it, I'm like, excited if this could ever, or wondering if this could ever happen, but something like this.
Yeah. But no matter the medium, it's like, or people kind of would support you or believe in you or your vision, no matter what material it is. It's more like the bigger taste, vision. If it's fashion or food, it's like the whole vision, basically, or more like the whole idea behind it, what you stand for. Maybe totally. It's a really nice thing.
Or even, sorry, but this like is also very curated, but even like that, I will manage to make people believe me and follow my path. Make people realizing that it's just naturally.
Okay, Jasmin, I think we wrap it up. I think we covered so many topics and stories, and I'm really, really happy, especially that you got the courage to do this very first podcast with me, with all this long, rocky journey to get to here, with all the smaller technical difficulties. I knew that you would be the perfect first guest for the podcast, perfect conversation partner. And I really thank you for doing this with me and doing this for me, and believing in this and having the courage to do this, which is for us both not a normal situation. So thank you.
Thank you too, really, again, for having me. And I learned a lot too.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you, Hugo.
Great. Thank you, Jasmin.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Cut.